DJ Muel. I'm definitely a fan. This is the Nazbol Vortex, and we are staring into it. Make sure not to look too long, chat, though. It might start staring back. Chat, I'm a heckin' bimbo, and I figured this out.
Oh my god, he looks like he listens to Devo. That is your average Caleb Maupin support.
We're going into politics.
Hey everyone, what you're about to see is a edited version of the discussion that we had on stream on the 21st of July 2021 about Nazbols. Nazbols have been coming up a little bit in discussions, and I kind of wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what they were. And a couple of people had already mentioned in the stream, as you'll see when I started the stream on Wednesday, that they were talking about Nazbols. So I thought, hell, we'll have a little look and see exactly what they are, because in my head, as you'll see, I always thought that they were kind of LARPers, and it turns out that I was right. That is basically what they are, but you'll find out exactly what that means as you see the video. There's a couple of little edited bits in there that will point you in the direction as to what I mean. So without further ado, enjoy. Thunk slunk on the quartering. Wait, the workers hate slime? Wait, what's that? And Nazbol, oh, I know about Caleb Maupin, yeah. Said that the workers hate slime? What is Caleb? Guy's a f***ing See, like, that's what, I always laugh at, like, you know, just Nazbols in general, because they're so, like, I feel like it's an internet-only phenomenon. Nazbols are, like, so absurd in, like, how they, like, think things work. It has to be an internet-only phenomenon. Maupin has done IRL conferences with the founder of Nazbolism. Oh no, that's what we're going to be looking at today, isn't it? Caleb Maupin and Alexander
okay,
Dugin
so
at
we
2018
watched this.
Nazbol popular.
We watched this earlier, okay? So yeah, we all know Caleb Maupin hates Thought Slime. Wrote a book about how Breadtube is a CIA plot, and you know how we know this? Because Vaush isn't very charismatic. Caleb Maupin is, but Vaush. How does this get us to what Caleb Maupin is asserting in that book? I have no fucking clue, but that's what his book says.
Or what?
I myself, you know, I'm not from New York City. I'm not from Los Angeles, California. I'm from the heartland of the United States. I grew up.
No shit, Caleb. No shit.
Hated communism with all their heart and soul. That's what they were all about. And furthermore, all the communist leaders hated fascism with all that they were about. So what is she getting at?
Caleb Maupin can't understand nuance. Nazis always hate communists, and communists always hate Nazis. There's one big thing that people forget about when they say things like this. That literally happened. Hitler was like, yeah, you and me, Stalin, that's cool, no problem. Of course, Stalin, not a proper communist. I know that's a very communist thing to say. Especially it's a very online communist thing to say. Everybody forgets that. They think it's so black and white when it comes to like, oh yeah, Nazis just hate communists and communists just hate Nazis. That's just like how it works. This was an uncomfortable alliance. Treaty of non-aggression is essentially what it was, but it happened. In being Nazbols stopped being communist though. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right. You're reading about how Stalin was trying to make an alliance with Britain and France before this. Yeah, he did. Yeah, they were part of the alliance. Yeah, Russia was part of the alliance. The whole pact thing, complex subjects. Soviets not thinking they could fight the Nazis because of the Stalinist purges. Yes. Basically, what I was trying to say is that it's possible for, like, you know, what you think to be right to be sort of not right.
1 hour later.
Working people.
Right. I want to put some nuance back into this, right? Because, like, I would say there's some real incompatibility between, I don't know what you want to call it, like leftist communism, leftist Marxism, and Nazism, fascism, right? I would say that there's some real incompatibility there. Now, where that incompatibility breaks down is if you take, like, some essentially economically populist talking points and you ship them together with social conservatism, and you justify that social conservatism by saying progressive ideals are a bourgeois decadence and that real workers don't give a fuck about your ID poll. That's when you get something that at least masquerades as being on the left, but is fundamentally, ideologically of the right. That is how I would describe Dugin's National Bolshevism. That is how I would describe Caleb Maupin's philosophy. That is how I would describe Infrared's philosophy, right? This is the Nazbol Vortex, and we are staring into it. Make sure not to look too long, chat, though. It might start staring back.
I don't know about anyone else, but I'm fucking bored. This is like one of the worst ways to figure out what a Nazbol is.
I mean, you're not wrong. Caleb Maupin is really hard to watch. If you've ever watched any like length of Caleb Maupin, it's just like
because Caleb Maupin isn't like saying anything.
Also, Jimmy Dore. Yo, I would say that Jimmy Dore, like I call him like Vortex adjacent. Like he's a useful idiot for these people, but I don't think he's ideologically savvy enough to actually know what he's supporting, right? Jimmy Dore thinks he's on the left, but he's very, very useful for the right.
Not really explaining anything about what the fucking, you know what I mean, the movement is or anything like that. Just like, you've really got to question yourself when you're just hanging out with a bunch of old white guys in it, do you know what I mean? And you're like a young, red-faced millennial. The Russian Nazbol Party documentary?
He's the fun. Yeah, exactly. That's why we call him Vortex adjacent. Yeah.
Let's not try to.
Do not click on that. Do not click on that. Do not
Please.
never trust auto translate on YouTube. Okay.
Why does it? Oh, fucking hell.
Hey, Sky.
This is the problem with finding like really obscure shit to dive into. Because it's like, this,
oh wait, are we
seems
changed
like
yet?
It's mainly like a Russian thing. And so, yeah, cheeky breeky, yeah. So now I'm like, I want CC for this, but obviously none of this is good CC because he's speaking English and they're like trying to auto-translate it from English. He's speaking English. I think the closed captions are more harmful than good at the minute.
Limonov is being published in Russian language newspaper New Russian World, where he describes his frustration with the West and disdain for capitalist society.
Looks like Stephen King. Looks like a weird mixture between Stephen King and Unabomber had a kid. Yeah, well, I was gonna say Mick Jagger actually. Yeah.
At the same time, he writes an autobiographical novel about his adventures of a Russian immigrant in America, called "It's Me, Eddie."
Now, keep this in mind. I will be bringing it up later, but this is just one.
So that's Limonov. Limonov and Dugin like are kind of the two major forces in this party. Now you're going to see later on that this party ends up splitting apart based on kind of who their backers are. I don't remember who Limonov's backer was, but I think Dugin's backer is Putin. And so they split off into like Limonov keeps the name National Bolshevik Party, right? And this is where if you're talking to Haas or something and you ask him if he's a Nazbol and he denies it, he'll probably take it and say that, like, you know, Limonov is the Nazbol, right? Because he took the name. Dugin renamed his to the Eurasian Party, I believe. And so, like, he'll try to kind of, like, use that to be like, oh, no, Nazbol, what do you mean? You know what I mean? And it's like, really, like, you know what we mean, Haas. You know exactly what we mean. And, you know, I was on to you more than almost anybody else out there, which is a sad thing, which tells you that no one on Twitch does their fucking homework. Chat, I'm not, like, a person that does the reading, all right? I'm the kid that comes in not having done the reading, and then listens to everybody else's conversation and groks the meaning, groks, you know, what's going on in the story, and then starts to talk and convinces the teacher that I did the reading, even though I didn't, right? That's who I am, right? So I'm not, like, super responsible, super proactive. I don't have, like, a lot of time. I don't do a lot of prep. I don't do as much as I can. Chat, what I'm saying is I'm a heckin' bimbo, okay? I'm a heckin' bimbo, and I figured this out. What does that say about the people who weren't intellectually curious enough to actually figure out what Haas was about?
One piece in a part of several bizarre fantasies that Eduard Limonov had. Oh my god, he looks like he listens to Devo. So, Nazbol...
His greatest sin. I have a bullhorn, a camcorder, 5 signs. I am just trying to build up the courage to walk out of the door. How do you prepare for a protest if you were the one person trying trying to shout fire in a theater.
Nazbols are like economically communist, but socially Nazi. So like, we want to overthrow the bourgeoisie, but the bourgeoisie are explicitly Jews. Is there a distinction between strasserists and Nazbols? Ooh. A strand of Nazism,
I think there kind of is, right?
more radical mass action and worker-based form of Nazism, espousing economic anti-Semitism above other anti-Semitic forms to achieve a national rebirth. Oh, right. Tackle poverty and seek to build working class support? No, not really. No, because that sounds more like a Nazi welfare state. Yeah, so strasserist, from what it sounds like here, it sounds like there was no element of communism going on there. Beefsteak Nazi? A term used by Nazi Germany to describe communists and socialists who joined the Nazi party. Right, okay. Yeah, you know, like, Nazbols do seem to be sort of like LARPing, generally speaking. That's why I was saying it like seems like an internet-only phenomena, at least in modern times. Of course, you've got the Caleb Maupin and Alexander Dugin thing that we saw, which is from like a year or two ago. Can you argue it's really not communism at all, like the whole National Socialists in Nazism? I think that this documentary is going to explain it, but I think the thing is that what, in terms of like Nazbols, is that there are movements so fractured. Because what you've got to remember about Nazis in general, is that when you get to that sort of like stage of fascism in a state, even when you get down to like the Aryan people, you know, like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, like they'll start to be hierarchies built within there as well, and then all of a sudden there's like no one left, kind of thing. That's how fascism ends up. That's why it ends up like destroying itself, because everybody's obsessed with being in authority. Everybody's obsessed with it, which is kind of like, you know, why it's backed by capitalism a lot. When it comes to Nazbols, it seems like that's a similar kind of thing. So you may have some people within the Nazbol movement who, generally speaking, are like, yeah, I want a moneyless, stateless, classless society. But then you'll get other people who be like, oh, well, we need a state. And then you'll get other people who be like, oh, well, we need classes, you know, kind of thing. So like, some people won't want the class, some people won't want the poverty, some people won't want the money. It's not gonna be 100%. But I guess we'll learn more about it here, which is why we're watching this, you know?
At this time in Russia, Yeltsin's shock therapy economy reforms began to unfold in the country. There had been massive privatization of state-owned enterprises in favor of a small group of individuals. Nationalists saw Yeltsin and his government as conspired with the Jews, traitors to the Russian nation, while communists exposed them as pro-Western capitalist traitors to the Soviet people. Realizing that the new government saw as its ideal the Western model of society, in which he had already been disappointed, takes the side of the red-brown opposition. In 1992, he became acquainted with the philosopher Alexander Dugin, and in 1993...
So this is that Dugin guy that we saw...
so apparently Dugin
Caleb Maupin
was young
talking to at that
at one
incredibly
point.
boring conference that we had to get rid of.
What is
They
this?
created the National Bolshevik
God.
Party, and the party's main mouthpiece, the Limonka newspaper, in 1994. Borrowing ideas of National Bolshevism from Nikolai Ostryalov and Ernst Nikisch, and trying to create their synthesis with the traditionalism of Guénon and Novoa, as well as with Marxism-Leninism and Eurasianism.
Okay, so Eurasianism is a movement in Russia that posits that Russian civilization does not belong in Europe or Asia, but the geopolitical concept of Eurasia. Big Russia rule Europe and Asia. Yeah, we want both. Part of the reason Russia pushes Eurasia so hard is because it helps legitimize their hold over parts of Asia they control, like Mongolia. Ah, yeah, you see, that makes sense. Yeah, Russia doesn't control Mongolia. I believe what TTK was trying to say was that they control areas of like sort of ancient Mongolia. Of indigenous people in Siberia and the Far East treated like shit by Russia. Yeah, 100%, yeah.
The mixture of all of this attracted absolutely diverse set of political marginals, as well as artists, writers, and musicians. Before moving from France to Russia, Limonov in 1992
Why is it so hard to pay attention to anything about Nazbols? It's like all like so depressing and grey and sepia tone.
Decided to visit the Balkans during the Bosnian War as a correspondent in order to cover the conflict on the Serb side and fulfill his dream of being a writer who has fought in the war.
So this guy's a LARPer who wanted to fight in the war and also be a writer. So again, Nazbols are literally LARPers every time. Every single time.
The romanticism of Schiller and Byron, Lermontov and de Musset, or Hemingway.
I mean, I don't know what's meant by LARPer here, but if anybody's taking this to mean, like, not a threat, not serious, like they are going to stay on the internet and remain a phenomenon of the internet, I would say that's a very dangerous assumption to make.
Way in Orwell pushed me to the Balkans.
Especially when they've got useful idiots bringing them on debate panels and making them seem like just another debate bro.
This guy was like jacking off to like genocide. I feel like he's a victim. I feel like he's a victim of like these kinds of like novels that romanticize war and shit like that you kind of see a lot. Those glasses, yeah, they're like serial killer glasses. Serial killer, sex pest, warmongerer. Glasses, yeah.
While radical youth
Wow,
were attracted
okay.
by anarchist direct actions, as well as by controversial stylistics of the party. The NBP's flag was inspired by the 1986 film Sid and Nancy, in which Gary Oldman's character, Sid Vicious, wore a t-shirt with a sickle and hammer in a white circle on a red background. The filmmakers used hammer and sickle due to censorship. In real life, Sid Vicious, like many punks of the time, wore swastika for the sake of shock value and provocation.
The flag was adopted because of a Gary Oldman film? Yeah, because Sid Vicious was like a fucking stupid piece of shit, the Nazi apologist bastard, not a real punk. Lots of fucking punks back then were just like fashion punks, innit? Here's me thinking the hammer and sickle was used because of, you know, Bolshevism. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, technically, just a fucking horrific, what do they call it?
Wait, Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols? Yeah, that was literally a group, like, put together to promote, like, a boutique of punk clothing, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? Isn't that who the backers of the Sex Pistols were? There was a shop called Sex. Was the, you know, name of the shop. Shop is called Sex. It's not a shop about sex. It's a shop of edgy fashion, I guess. And they sponsored a band to be, I don't know.
Plastic punk?
The NBP also never had a coherent program. There was an approximate view by its ordinary members that after the revolution there would be...
It's a little bit ironic too that like the Nazbols adopted something from not Sid Vicious himself, who wore a swastika, but from the movie about Sid Vicious, where the swastika is kind of like washed into an acceptable symbol that's still edgy, that being the hammer and sickle, right? That's pretty funny, right? Considering that, like, you know, thinking about imagining the hammer and sickle as being something that if you were to wash, if you were to get it wet, would wash off and reveal a swastika.
Maximum culture of
That perfectly describes this strain of thought. That perfectly describes this strain of thought.
freedom within the country. Nazbols were declaring their ideology as radical right-wing and extreme left-wing simultaneously. Limonov was saying that the ideology of national Bolshevism and the party itself are two different things.
Wait, what? How can the party and the ideology be two different things? You fucking started it, bro.
In the street.
This is absolutely where horseshoe theory comes from, isn't it? We've cracked the code.
There's something fundamentally non-left-wing about these people. Okay?
This is literally why people started using the term horseshoe theory. Because
Talking about anything in terms of a fucking continuum, which is what horseshoe theory is. Horseshoe theory envisions the political ideological spectrum like as a continuum. And in other words, there's like one line, right? One line, right? And what it's missing is the fact that even the political compass gets it better than horseshoe theory, because horseshoe theory only sees one level, right? And it just basically says at the center there is liberty, and at the extremes there is authoritarianism. So it does contain the ideas of those things in it, but it just fucks them up. Anything that oversimplifies ideology more than a political compass test, right? We know the problem with political compass tests, right? We know that that's not really telling you everything you need to know about somebody's ideology. And so if you can imagine, flatten that even more. And you've got the horseshoe theory. I am not a fan
out there like this en masse in Russia, innit?
It was something of a movement and a hangout for a large number of different political marginals who were united by hatred towards the existing structure of society, and for whom this hatred wasn't framed into a clear vision of what exactly to do with it. Communists, former Trotskyist postmodernist gays, skinheads, former anarchists, punks, bohemians, Orthodox traditionalists, Buddhist neophytes, and others.
So wait, they liked gays? They were fine with gays? This is a fucking movement that is all over the place.
Wait, were they, or did...
It's like the final form of a centrist. Or like what a centrist would want to be, I guess. Gays weren't super hated by Limonov at the time, in line with a lot of Russia, but Nazbols have moved with the rest of Russia into the more anti-LGBTQIA hate. Right, I gotcha, yeah.
Limonov decided to support Yeltsin in a presidential election against conservative communist Zyuganov.
Wait, so this is so fucking stupid. It's like, yeah, let's be accelerationist. So like, let's vote for the, but not even accelerationism in the way that like people were talking about it about like Trump and stuff like that. Like people were saying.
So wait, were they supporting Yeltsin because he was perceived as being incompetent?
Saying like, oh, it's fine to not vote for anyone at all in the 2020 elections because accelerationism, right? Let's just let it happen. It's the other wing. It's like, let's let left-wing parties go for it, and that's the accelerationism that we want. Like, if we allow people to make the country better, then more Nazis will happen. That line of thinking is just beyond logic.
I feel like DJ Muel and I are engaging with this material in a very different way. I'm not entirely sure where he's going with it. I haven't really interacted with a lot of his content before. You know, he seems like a cool guy and stuff. Like I feel like we're coming at this with completely different perspectives or something.
Yeah, he looks like someone that is incredibly doom-pilled by everything.
You should have paid us. You don't need to wiretapping us. You need to be friends with us. Let's work together. Don't be resentful for a moment. There are areas where the state cannot interfere and lower its prestige. To threaten embassies, to organize demonstrations here and there, in Latvia or Ukraine. We can do it for you, and the state can officially condemn us. We will be an expression of anger of the ordinary Russian people.
They just want to be Nazis so bad. Yeah, I feel like at this point it was fully overridden by Nazis. Like the communist element was like they were just fucking Nazis. It's just like another way. I mean, that's what Nazbols are. It's just not. They're just Nazis. You know what I mean? There's no.
Okay, so that's what he. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree that basically what you're getting with National Bolshevism is, I think, at its end, indistinguishable from what you'd get with any other fascist party. That's why I don't call them left wing. I don't let them. Like, I feel like the kind of Soviet communist aesthetic that they kick, the fake populism that they use, I don't believe it for a second. I don't think that there's any commitment to that, right? These are right-wingers. And they're LARPing as left-wingers. That's the danger, right?
Communism. I guess you can, like, moneyless, stateless, classless society, but then, like, you know, fascism intertwined with that implies that there would be classes of people.
Limonov was more and more surrounded by obedient young members, for whom ideology itself...
Oh no, what's going on? When they start cutting people's hair, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a cult?
As well as their own political ambitions.
Oh no, are they... Yeah, there's no ideology. Everything they have to do to get power, yeah, that's what they're obsessed with. Plain Fascism 101, yeah. He's like... shaving their heads. Like, this is like an initiation ceremony.
after he broke up with Natalia Medvedev.
I don't think I've ever heard them say anything that even sounded remotely leftist. Yeah, but like somebody like Haas will put that moniker on it himself, say that he's a Marxist-Leninist, call himself a tanky, and everybody will just accept that. And it's believed because like a tanky is generally not something that you want to be. A tanky is generally not well accepted in the rest of like the political ideological sphere. So it's like kind of like if you say that like, you know, I'm an anarchist and there's something really like hierarchical about your ideology, the people start getting suspicious. But if you say I'm a tanky and there's something kind of weird and authoritarian about your, you know, even a little bit regressive about your ideology, people don't blink twice. They're just like, oh yeah, tankies be crazy, right? You know, that's all they get.
In 1995, he dated a young woman for 3 years, whom he abandoned 8 months pregnant, and began to date the 16 years old Nazbol.
Oh, he's a pedo! He's a pedo! Well, there you go.
Limonov declaring that in Putin's Russia...
So to be fair, Haas is not a fan of Limonov. I don't know if that's why or anything like that, but like, yeah, you can't, don't try to tie Haas to this stuff. Like we said, Limonov and Dugin represent 2 different strains of this, and they split. With Limonov, I can't believe he supported Yeltsin, but it sounds like because he thought Yeltsin was incompetent. Whereas I think that Dugin ends up kind of hooked up with Putin. And Haas is very much a Putin stan.
Revolution is impossible. New plan was to find poorly controlled territory in any former Soviet republic with a sufficient Russian population, seize this territory by force and declare it New Russia,
Sound familiar?
Novorossiya, in order to further spread revolutionary separatism to other regions.
Yeah, so he tried to do a bunch of like imperialism and shit like that. Like I'm reading about him off screen. Like he tried to he supported the annexation of Crimea, the unrecognized DNR and LNR, and encouraged Russians to take part in the war in Donbass. Just like a massive imperialist. He was like, yeah, war is sick. Yeah, I fucking love war. These are basically just like the same kind of people as like anti-lockdown protesters.
Nationalists distance themselves from Nazbols because of the presence of Jews and other minorities on the leadership positions in the party.
So like, let me get this straight. They were Nazi, but not Nazi enough for other Nazis, which is why Nazism is doomed to fail.
That is a very dangerous take.
By the way,
listen, even if you're right, you gotta fight it every step of the way, okay? Because it might be doomed to fail, but it hurts a lot of people on its way down. That's not a spite. That's an easy thing to accept. I don't think DJ Muel necessarily disagrees with me. I think we're just coming at it from 2 different perspectives.
You'll never be Nazi enough for other Nazis. Like, that's just a fact. That's literally what happened in Nazi Germany. Like, everyone was trying to kill Hitler, all of his friends. So he just kept killing everybody. Nazis hate Central Asia. Nazbols are okay with Central Asia, right? And it sounds like they're okay with Jews and other minorities, mainly Slavs. Wait, I'm so fucking confused. Like, how are Russians so... I thought Russians were Slavs. Right, that's what I was thinking. Russians are broadly Slavs. Slavic ethnicities map. The darker the green, the higher the population of Slav. But that's what I mean. Like, how could you be a white nationalist in Russia when your entire country is Slavic? I mean, obviously, this isn't going to be representative of all the areas in Russia. That is your average Caleb Maupin supporter.
So, I mean, like, you can kind of see how fascism works in different venues, right? The particular prejudices that exist and have strength in that area are going to be carried over into the philosophy, because at the end of the day, fascism is interested first and foremost in seizing power. What it does with that power is not necessarily something that you're going to know on the outset, as the Strasserites found out through being murdered in their sleep.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a very enjoyable.
Enjoyed, yeah.
Especially since
sarcasm.
I was right.
Sarcasm.
Of course, I'm not 100%.
But it's important to know, and thank you, DJ Muel. Hey, listen.
It seems that Nazbols are.
Thank you for covering this. This is important stuff. Not a lot of people understand this, and it's an ignorance that's being exploited by bad faith actors.
are politically homeless people. And I want to draw attention to what I said a little earlier on, just before the end of the edited version of the stream, in that they're very similar to anti-vaxxers. They seem to be politically homeless after the end of an empire, sort of the watching the USSR kind of free fall around them, you know. And that's kind of what anti-vaxxers are like in the UK at the moment. You know, the British Empire is in free fall, and they are trying to find something to hold on to. You know, these people have probably never spoken about politics at the dinner table in their entire life, because that's just what you get told in Britain. And they are trying to attach themselves to any kind of movement that they can, because their rights are all of a sudden being infringed upon, and they're terrified by it, and they just don't understand why anti-vaccine.
DJ Muel, I don't know if you'll actually see this, but if you do, I would love to talk to you about the subject. I think it's an important thing. I love that you're bringing it up and, you know, putting more eyes on this, kind of shining a light through that ignorance. I think I cop to my ignorance. I even exaggerate my ignorance at times. Like when I told Haas I don't read theory, that was just playing on his preconceived notions of anarchists, you know. But like rather than do a flex of, oh yeah, I know fucking everything, right? And then avoid being exposed for not knowing everything by the fact that you don't cover what you don't understand. I like that DJ Muel's like taking some time to pick up the pieces that that he might have missed. So good job.
And attaching yourself to anti-maskers and COVID-idiot sort of movements is bad. So yeah, kind of similar to the Nazbols. You know, they wanted to have the communist Russia there, but were sort of confused about it and seemed to be like a mishmash of lots of different people. So it's hard to say what the initial movement was all about, whether they wanted communism or whether they wanted fascism or anarchism, because it is incredibly difficult to see what's going on there. But I think that what we can deduce from this investigation is that Nazbols were exactly the same as anti-vaxxers, in that sometimes when an empire dissolves, it gets destroyed, and the political scene is in free fall, you will just get bizarre movements that make no sense, and they will go on for a long time. And I think that we could probably see the anti-vaxxer, anti-COVID, well, that's not anti-COVID, but COVID deny movements in the UK and worldwide go on for a little longer than that. And it will be, in the end, hopefully, if the Earth survives for that long, 40 years down the line, a bit of a laugh. People will be on the internet streaming about it, wondering what the was going on. Hopefully there'll be a bit.
Maybe conditions are different in the UK, but I feel like the conditions in the US are ripe for something like this to take hold. Here's the reasons, okay? People are starting to see the emptiness in right-wing philosophy. In other words, right-wing philosophy leads to sort of a singularity in economics, leads to greater control by fewer people, right? It gives us, you know, it makes the world worse, and it's hard to deny at a certain point. When you get into late stage capitalism, you know, when even right-wingers are seeing what happens when one social media company controls like a whole, you know, basically genre of social media platforms. In other words, you could go on a different platform other than Facebook, but nobody's there, so it's worthless. The utility in Facebook comes from the fact that a lot of people are there, right? And so, you know, it has a de facto monopoly. Right-wingers are starting to see, you know, what that can effect that can have. Although I would argue that a lot of their problem of being banned off of platforms is like not obeying terms of service that are not unsensible, but at least they're aware of like the drawbacks of capitalism at this point, sometimes because they perceive liberals as being the economic elite, and that's done by like looking at essentializing people by where they live, saying the people on the coast have more money because they live in higher cost of living places, which, you know, that makes sense, that checks out. We forget all the while that there's people working at those Starbucks there's people doing those like customer service jobs to service those wealthy people on the coast with very little money, still paying that insane cost of living, but not reaping the benefits, not getting really enough pay to be able to subsist there, right? So that's the issue. That's how they're able to sort of like play this trick of saying, oh yeah, the wealthy are our enemies because they're liberal. And then that feeds right into the conservative ML viewpoint where we see progressive values as being a bourgeois decadence, right? So I would say that America is particularly primed and particularly vulnerable to this kind of appeal. I don't know about the UK. Maybe y'all are totally safe. Maybe y'all don't have the same shit going on that we do. But in the US, this shit is particularly dangerous. And you don't see mass audiences on people like Haas, on actual Nazbols, on Caleb Maupin even, right? You don't see that. What you do see, though, is people like Jimmy Dore priming their audiences to get sucked down the Nazbol Vortex. And that's why I like Vaush's name. That's why I use Vaush's name. That's why Red-Brown Alliance, that fucking antiquated term, which might feel more academic to some, is not useful. Is not the way that we want to describe it, okay? If you talk about the Red-Brown Alliance, you're talking about a historical movement. What I'm talking about is something in the here and now, something in the present. Vaush has named this thing the Nazbol Vortex. Not everybody's familiar with it. You don't have to be familiar with the name. I need you to understand the principle behind it. I need you to understand who we're talking about, and I need you to understand why they're dangerous.
More info out there. So
and I'm talking to content creators, not to you, chat.
But anyway, that's just my final thoughts on the whole Nazbols thing. I think it's an absolutely fascinating subject to look at, especially from a political perspective. Not sure there's any other perspective you could look at it at. But anyway, I've rambled on for way too long. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed seeing the segments from the stream and you want to see more of the stream, the link is in.
I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, go follow DJ Muel on Twitch and on YouTube if you are not already.